Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today is Father's Day, so a big happy Father's Day to all dads out there. But that's not what this video is focused on. This is going to be focused on some awesome gameplay by SnowSailor from the North American server, who's playing in the IS-5. You might be wondering, well, what the hell is this tank? What is the IS-5? Well, it's a vehicle that you don't see very often, and that's because it's a Clan Wars reward tank. I think from about a year ago now, just under, almost exactly a year ago. And you know what, it wasn't received by that many players, and so it's quite a rare tank to find. I've never done a review on it on this channel. I've never had gameplay of the IS-5 featured, so I'm going to give you an overall rundown of what to expect from this tank. Well, hull-wise, it's a lot like a T-10, you know, the Tier 9 Soviet heavy tank which replaced the IS-8. Obviously IS-8, IS-5, similar names, starting to ring alarm bells there. However, the IS-5 actually has better armor, well, at least on the hull, than on the T-10, because it's slightly lower profile. So that means that the angling on the lower plate and also the angling on the upper plate is slightly better. Now, the turret armor on the IS-5, I believe, is worse than the T-10, at least in my opinion from what I've been able to find. And also, keep in mind, guys, I'm commentating on a tank that I have never played myself, so that's something to take into account with all of my analysis here. But one thing that I have noticed about the IS-5, a lot like the IS-3, is that it does have a rather weak part on its tank here. Right on top of the cheeks. Oh gosh, that Centurion puts a good round down onto his hull there. Right on top, not on top of the cheeks, sorry, on top of the head, like, yeah, where the hat would go for the IS-5. This is definitely something that you can take advantage of, and you can overmatch it with guns of 90mm and more. And that's something to definitely take into account. And that is a bane for every IS-3 driver as well. SnowSailor quickly and casually finishing off an LTTB there, a Tier 7 Soviet light tank. So, what about the gun? You might be noticing that the shells are coming out this 122mm very rapidly. And that's because the gun that this vehicle gets is pretty much identical to the IS-3A, that at least more available Tier 8 Soviet premium heavy tank. Not sure if that's in general release, but I know they keep selling it every once so often. Now, that gun has horrible aim time, although the aim time on this vehicle is just a little bit better than on the IS-3A. It has 3.2 seconds aim time rather than the 3.4 seconds aim time that you get on both the IS-3 and the IS-3A. But one thing that I should add is that the gun dispersion values are slightly worse on the IS-5, and so that kind of balances out the small aim time improvements that you get with this vehicle. But the shell velocity, while the same as the IS-3A, is massively better than the IS-3. These standard APCR rounds go at 1,400 meters per second towards the target. So that means that you pretty much don't have to give any lead, and you should be able to pull off some nice shots at long range. But just don't expect the shells to go anywhere near where you aim reliably, because the accuracy is 0.46. But the penetration, just like on the IS-3A, is 221mm with the standard round, and eventually SnowSailor is going to carry this game so hard that he will have to dip into his heat rounds that have 270mm of penetration. Now, I'd probably rather have the APCR rounds on the IS-3A, at least against angled surfaces. But the heat rounds on this tank are rather nice for starting to bludgeon your way through thicker armor, such as on the Tiger 88. Now, keep in mind the IS-5 doesn't have preferential matchmaking, so it can meet Tier 10 vehicles, so I expect that's why SnowSailor keeps quite a healthy supply of his heat rounds. He's up to 3,000 damage now and 3 kills, but he is starting to run out of these APCR rounds on the vehicle, and he will have to start dipping into heat. But that shouldn't be too much of a concern with this tank, because it makes full premium credits. Crazy, right? Many of the Clan Wars reward tanks that Wargaming release don't make premium credits because the majority of them are Tier 10. However, the Tier 8 ones, and I believe also the Chieftain T95, Wargaming recently changed that to also make premium credits, so to say. So as long as you do penetrate the premium rounds on this vehicle, you are still going to be making decent credits, hopefully, as we're going to see towards the end of this battle. But these 275mm heat rounds easily able to go through the Tiger 88. Now, SnowSailor is making use of a very good matchup here. He is also very fortunate that there aren't any artillery on the enemy team, and so that means that he can basically go hold down here and use kind of fairly decent armor at tier 9, at tier 8 at top tier. I didn't realize or appreciate that the armor on this tank was actually so darn good. 120 millimeters at the front, very well angled. As I mentioned earlier on, lower profile than the T10, which actually makes the front of the hull even better than that tier 9 Soviet heavy tank. But also 120 millimeters on the side. That is way better than the side armor of the IS-3 and also the IS-3A. And the turret armor, pretty damn awesome as well, as we've been seeing here. I think like 200 millimeters at the front, sorry, 201 millimeters to be exact. And so you're not going to be going through this tank unless you're firing 90 millimeter plus caliber guns at the roof, like we were talking about, or some really high penetration premium rounds, probably hitting to the left or to the right of the mantlet here. And so, SnowSailor has had to do some pretty heavy work down the linear pass on Karelia, but he's left his platoon mate in the Tiger II alone, and he's having to go back to base to be able to try and polish off the invasion down the middle and also the north of the map. Puts a good round there into the FCM-50T, taking out that tier 8 French premium heavy tank, and now turns his attention to the T-34-3, that tier 8 Chinese premium medium tank that, unless he's firing heat, is going to have very bad penetration that will be unable to reliably get through the front of SnowSailor's armor. If you see one of these rare tanks, these IS-5s, in a battle, and you've pretty much got 200 millimeters of pen and less, unless you're firing like up into the lower plate or down onto the hull armor with some good gun depression, I really don't recommend shooting these things in the front. At about 50 to 100 meters, oh my gosh, that T-34-3 came out of nowhere. The vehicle has about 200 to 220 millimeters of penetration, which is something to take into account. So, SnowSailor finishes off the TVP VTU and now pushes the T-34-3 around. The T-34-3 bounces the AP round, only 175 millimeters on that, and he gets set on fire and burnt to a crisp. Gosh, I guess he wasn't so fortunate right there. 375 damage done, but then 387 damage from the fire. But SnowSailor has to watch out here now, because against the Sturmil he is on very low health indeed. And the Sturmil, if he's using that top Ferdinand caliber gun, is going to be able to challenge the front of his armor. But, well, it doesn't look like he is, as he manages to ricochet. And SnowSailor now down to the last 5 rounds of ammunition that he has. Very well, decides in the correct fashion to be able to use that high explosive round to penetrate the weak German Sturmil's armor. Rolling for 401, if he'd fired an AP round there, or an APCR round I should add, with 390 alpha damage, he may not have been able to fully take out that vehicle. 8 kills, 7,205 damage in a tier 8 premium tank. That's just an absolute monster result so far. And we are just, what is that, 8 minutes into the game? But he still has to deal with 3 vehicles, including a Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger, who is on 3 kills. And that vehicle, irrelevant of having the stock gun or having that monstrous 150mm main armament, is going to be able to take him out in a single shot. But not if SnowSailor embraces the inner hand solo and fires first, shutting down the Borsig. And now things are starting to look just a little bit better. He's got to deal with a KV-2 who was last spotted holding the alleyway, and an E-25 who was spotted behind him. Now that E-25, if he will really need to get the side armor or the rear armor of SnowSailor to be able to challenge him, but the KV-2 is very likely to be using the 152mm with high explosive rounds that I'd say it's about a 50-50 whether he kills SnowSailor in a single shot from the front. Maybe just under. I think he can probably take 1 shot from the 150mm high explosive howitzer, but he's not going to be taking 2. So 3 rounds left. Well, okay, there goes your last APCR round. Now you are down to 2 heat rounds. Gosh, that KV-2 with 356 hit points. You better hope you're not going to low roll your next shot. SnowSailor, it's starting to get very tense in here. Where could that E-25 possibly be? Probably at the back, but the last thing that you want in these kind of situations is to give that E-25, who appears to be a very good player on the enemy team, enough time to flank you. SnowSailor now on 9 kills. That IS in front of him doing a little bit of a wiggle, don't know what that was. But he has to watch out here because the KV-2 doesn't even need to penetrate him to deal some pain out. Gosh, the E-25's behind you, SnowSailor. Turn your tank around as he finishes off the KV-2, now having a single shot in his tank. The E25 correctly realizes that there's no way he's going through the front of the IS-5 and tries to retreat. But SnowSailor is going to show you that this vehicle is not too slow. With 42 kilometers an hour top speed limit, he should be able to chase him down here. This is it, the final round of the game. 0.46 accuracy. Looks like Serb is on your side today, SnowSailor, as he shuts down the E25 at the end of the game, picking up his 11th kill and 7,800 damage in a tier 8 tank. So SnowSailor certainly showcased what this Clan Wars reward tank is capable of in the hands of a very competent player. And I have to admit, before researching the statistics for this replay, I didn't realize just how darn powerful the IS-5 was. The fact that this vehicle gets better hull armor than a T10 because the vehicle is just a little bit shorter with the same thickness at the front and the side, combined with that awesome shell velocity that the IS-3A gets of 1,400, while having pretty much the same mobility of the IS-3A but just having 10 more meters view range, probably makes this one of, if not the best Clan Rewards tank tier for tier that Wargaming has ever released. And in retrospect, this is probably one of the tanks that I certainly missed that I didn't invest the time to be able to pick up. So what a result here for SnowSailor. He made 202,000 credits, so even though he fired all of those heat rounds, he still makes 102,000 credits profit in a single game. He also received 11,537 experience, and he also received a whopping amount of crew training, that is 2,197 base to be exact, securing the Faden's medal, which is certainly a nail bite to killing the last remaining enemy vehicle with the final remaining shell in your own, a Pools medal for his 11 kills, unsurprisingly a high caliber for 7,833 damage. That's over 6 times what anyone else was able to do on his team. And finally, a Steel Wall medal for 3,785 damage blocked by his armor, which is certainly enough to kill the IS-5 2 times over. And SnowSailor notes in the description of the video that his ammunition loadout was for Clan Wars, i.e. 1442, and that he would usually take 2172, which would have probably netted him about another 30,000 credits profit, as the heat rounds were kind of unnecessary. Nevertheless, this was an absolute monster replay. SnowSailor, thank you so much for uploading it on replays.QuickyBaby.com and showcasing why the IS-5 is a monster that I certainly regret not being able to earn myself. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as well. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the IS-5, especially if you were one of the lucky few who managed to pick one up. Is it your favorite go-to tier 8 premium? And I'll finish the video as I began, wishing all dads out there happy Father's Day. Thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.